Negotiation. If you're a human who talks to other humans, then you probably negotiate every single day of your life. Whether it's negotiating what to eat for dinner, or negotiating where you want to go, or what time you want to meet somebody, we negotiate all the time. There are a few moments in our lives where negotiation could be the difference between life-changing amounts of money. Negotiating for a new job promotion, negotiating on the price of a house, negotiating to try and win a client. So in this episode of Persuasive, I'm going to be giving you 5 tips on how to be a better negotiator, and number 5 is going to be the magic question, which is this simple question to make every negotiation more successful for you. But let's start with the other tips first, starting with number 1, realizing that negotiation is possible. A lot of the time when we get rejected in life, we often just take it as final. No? Okay, I guess it's not meant to be, or I guess it's just not my time. But I want you to snap out of that mindset, because these are missed opportunities that could completely change your life. Instead, you should be thinking, I'm not going to fall at this first hurdle. Instead, I'm just going to keep on going. Open up the conversation again. Start a negotiation. Because what research in behavioral science has shown is that normally when people try to negotiate, most of the time they get what they want. So next time you get a no to a request that you actually really care about, start negotiating, because you might end up at a better outcome, better than you ever thought you would. Okay, so the second tip to being a better negotiator, and this is really important, is to get out of the zero-sum gain mindset. What do I mean by this? Usually when people think of negotiation, they think it's two people battling it against each other, trying to one-up each other, and they will always end up with a winner and a loser. Somebody who's on top and somebody who ends up being the sucker. But when you go into a negotiation with this kind of attitude, it instantly raises the emotional defenses of the people you're negotiating with, and therefore you're much less likely to be successful when trying to persuade them to work with you. Instead, approach a negotiation with the mindset that actually at the end of this negotiation, we can get to a conclusion where both people feel happy with the result. We can both be happy at the end of this. We just need to figure out the right creative approach to this negotiation in order to end up in a place where all the parties are happy with the outcome. Because really, that is the art of being a good negotiator. It's not trying to one-up your opponent and trying to make them feel like a sucker. Instead, all parties can win if we're just creative enough. So how do you be creative? Well, that's where tips 3, 4, and 5 come in. Okay, so tip number 3 is to expand the number of options on the table. What do I mean by this? Usually when we're negotiating over one single thing, like the price of a house or the price of a car. But the problem with this kind of very rudimentary and basic negotiation is that there's only one thing on the table, the price. And as a result of that, it's very hard for either party to make concessions. The seller doesn't want to lower their price and you don't want to pay more than you're willing to. So as a result of that, these negotiations are often unsuccessful, without often coming to a very satisfying resolution for both parties. So how do you overcome this? Well, you expand the number of options on the table. Rather than just talk about the price, try add some more layers of complexity to the negotiation. Let me give you an example from my personal life. So this one time I was buying this plug-in hybrid car, and we felt that the price they were giving us was a little bit unreasonable. We wanted to pay about £150 less than what they were offering us. But when we asked them to come down on the price of the car by just £150, they completely wouldn't budge. They said, no, we can't do it. This is the price that we have. They weren't willing to budge at all. So remembering my training in negotiation from behavioral science, I was thinking, how can I expand the solution space? Now, what I realized was that one thing that the car was missing was the plug-in cable that you needed for a plug-in hybrid, the thing that plugs your car in to the mains charger. Now, if you try and buy one of these cables online, they cost about £150 anyway. But I knew as a car dealership, they probably had loads of these things just lying around. So I asked the dealer, can you throw in the cable for charging the car? Because that's worth about £150 to me anyway, and then we'll pay the full price for the car. And when I expanded the solution space to include this extra option, the guy said yes, and effectively we both came away with a solution where we're both happy. He sold a car, and we've paid £150 less than what we were originally offered because we no longer have to buy that cable. Now that was quite a simple example from my own personal life, but this is a common tactic used in even very high stakes negotiations. The fundamental concept to remember here is to try and add more things to the table to negotiate on rather than just the first thing that you asked for. But what if you can't think of things to add to the table? Well, that's where tip number 4 comes in. Okay, so tip number 4 is going to help you with that part of expanding solution space, and that is to make your negotiations more collaborative. What I mean by this is that when you're trying to negotiate, rather than go into that negotiation with a very fixed idea of what the perfect outcome for you might be, instead, work with the person that you're negotiating with to try and come up with a big solution that's better than your original idea that leaves both parties happy. There's a researcher called Kimberly Elsbach. She's an expert in negotiation science, and what she did was analyze movie pitches over a period of 6 years to see what the difference was between successful and unsuccessful movie pitches. Now, movie pitches are a massive, high-stakes negotiation. These things are often multi-million-dollar deals. The studio can only greenlight very few projects a year, and for a filmmaker, just one big hit could completely transform their career. And the biggest difference between successful and unsuccessful movie pitches, she found, was that successful pitches tended to be a lot more collaborative than the unsuccessful ones. Rather than going into the pitch with this perfect, finalized idea for what the movie has to be, instead they came in with the starter of an idea and then worked with the studio to create something where the execs and the filmmaker were both happy and actually was often better than the idea that they came in with at the beginning. And this is how both parties can win in a negotiation. By getting out of the mindset that you're fighting over the same piece of pie, instead go into the mindset that we're going to bake an even bigger pie together and there's going to be plenty of pie for everyone to enjoy. But this concept of being collaborative, it makes sense, but it still feels quite abstract, right? So how do you make this tangible? How do we make this into a concrete piece of advice that you can use in every negotiation you do going forward? Well, it's here, guys. Tip number 5, it's the magic question. So the magic question is a simple question that will completely transform your negotiations going forward and make you more likely to get an outcome where you feel happy. And that question is, what would it take? Yep, it's that simple. You just tell them, what would it take for you to say yes? The great thing about this question is that it touches all of those points we've talked about so far. It opens up the negotiation, it gets out of the zero-sum mindset, it expands the solution space, it becomes more collaborative, and to top it all off, you're also showing a lot of respect to the person you're negotiating with. You're not assuming that you know what they want best, and you're also not assuming that you know what's best in this situation. Instead, you respect their opinion. You show that you're not trying to cheat them or make them into a sucker, and instead they're going to feel a lot more relaxed and start thinking about solutions to your question. And the other great thing about the magic question is that you can really apply it to every single negotiation you do. You just ask them, what would it take? You can even tell people that you saw this in my video and tell them that this is a negotiation tactic that you saw in my video, and you just want to ask them the question. And the crazy thing is that even if the person you're negotiating with knows that this is a negotiation tactic or knows that you're trying to get a solution that's favorable for you, it's still favorable for them, so they're still likely to collaborate with you. So here's how I would do it. It feels very natural to me. Hey, I saw this thing in this video about negotiation, and you said that the best tip for any negotiation is to ask, what would it take? So let me ask you, what would it take for you to say yes to my request? And with this very simple question, I hope you have more successful negotiations and live a prosperous and amazing life. So those are all my tips for negotiation. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video or you learned something, can you please give me a thumbs up down below because it really helps me out. And subscribe if you haven't already. We're rapidly approaching 10,000 subscribers. And when we get to 10,000 subscribers, we're gonna do this huge special where I try and explain every single behavioral science principle I can. And if I fail, well, there's going to be some pretty fun punishments. So I hope that'll be a really fun video for you guys. If you want to help us get to 10,000 subscribers, then make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, ring the notification bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Also, just one more thing, if you are watching this video near the time of release, I am looking for a new video editor to help me with this channel. So if you're interested in being part of my team and making the best behavioral science videos on the internet, then please apply. There is a form down in the description below where you can see the tasks and see what kind of things we're looking for. I'd love to see what you can do. Hope to hear from you soon. All right, that's all. Thanks guys, bye.